and welcome. Welcome to class number 119. Are you ready? Point 12, unit 15, page 169. Much, many, a lot of. I explained this recently, maybe 5 classes ago. I don't have much patience. It's interesting. I don't have many patience. I don't have much patience. What's the difference? I don't have much patience is no tengo mucha paciencia. I don't have many patients is no tengo muchos pacientes. Soy mal médico. All right. So a doctor doesn't have many patients if he's a bad doctor. But maybe he has some patience, okay? So it's the paciencia y pacientes have exactly the same pronunciation. Patience. Okay, but remember, I don't have much money. I have a lot of money. The opposite. No tengo mucho dinero. I don't have much money. Afirmativo. I have a lot of money. No se puede decir I have much money. Es incorrecto. Suena raro. La pregunta, do you have much money? And so in the question and in the negative, much. And in the affirmative, a lot of. For uncountables like money, milk, water, butter. No tengo mucha mantequilla en casa. I don't have much butter at home. Yes, I have a lot of butter at home. Excuse me, do you have much butter at home? Ahora bien. Para contables is many. No tengo muchos micrófonos en casa. I don't have many microphones at home. Do you have many microphones at home? Yes, I have a lot of microphones at home. So many in the interrogative and negative and a lot of in the affirmative. However, remember, I said, borra todo eso. Usa a lot of siempre, porque es correcto en todos. Mientras que much no es correcto en afirmativo. Y many puede, pero vamos. I have many problems. Suena mal. Es correcto. I have many problems. But we say I have a lot of problems, which is not true. I don't have many problems. But nevertheless. Now, another way of saying the same thing, I don't have much water, is I have very little water. I have very little water. I don't have many problems. I have very few problems. Little and few. Now, little means pequeño, pequeñito, diminuto, little. Y también poco. ¿Hablas inglés? Un poco. A little. So little is poco. A little is un poco. So, for example, si estamos en medio del desierto, we're in the middle of the middle of the desert. I said, water. Is there any water? We have a little water. Okay. A little water is optimistic. Tenemos un poco de agua. Aún queda un poco de agua. A little water. A little water. En español se dice un poco de agua. En inglés se dice un poco agua. We have a little water. Now, we have little water. Si quito el significa tenemos poca agua. It's pessimistic, negative. So there's a very big difference between we have little water and we have a little water. Igual que con few, pocos, en plural. Little is poco, o poco, un poco. A little, además de pequeño. And few, F-E-W, como new, nuevo, pero con F, few, is pocos. O unos pocos, unos cuantos. O pocos. I have few problems. Qué bien. Tengo pocos problemas. I have a few problems. Tengo unos cuantos problemas. Interpretación aquí. I have a few problems. I have a few pencils. So, I don't have many problems. I have few problems. Ahora bien, I don't have a lot of money. I have little money. I don't have a lot of butter at home. I have little butter. Solemos casi siempre insertar very delante de little y delante de few. Suena un poco raro decir, I have little butter at home. I have a little butter at home. I have few problems. No, I have very few problems. I have very little butter at home. I have very little water. There's very little water in this room. So, are there a lot of people? Are there a lot of people in Formentera? No, there aren't many people, or there aren't a lot of people in Formentera, or there are very few people in Formentera. Are there a lot of lakes, natural lakes, lagos naturales, no embalses? Are there a lot of lakes in Spain? No, there aren't a lot of lakes in Spain. There aren't many lakes in Spain. There are very few lakes in Spain. Are there a lot of lakes in Canada? 80,000. Yes, there are a lot of lakes in Canada. Are there a lot of Chinese people in Norway? No, there aren't a lot of Chinese people in Norway. There aren't many Chinese people in Norway. There are very few Chinese people in Norway. Are there many trees in Greenland? No, relatively speaking, no, there aren't many trees in Greenland. There aren't a lot of trees. Recuerda que lata es universal. Siempre es correcto. There aren't a lot of trees in Greenland. There are very few trees in Greenland. Is there a lot of snow in Mexico? No, there isn't a lot of snow in Mexico. There isn't much snow in Mexico. There's very little snow in Mexico, only at the top of the mountains. And sometimes in northern Mexico, if there's a cold front, un frente de frío, un ola de frío, a cold wave or a cold front. But there's very little snow in Mexico. Is there a lot of water, or is there much water in the Atacama Desert? No, there's very little water in the Atacama Desert. There isn't much water. En este caso, mejor there's very little porque hay muy poca agua, casi nada. The Atacama Desert is the second driest point in the planet. The driest is an area of Antarctica. Yes. 10,000 años sin lluvia, sin precipitación. All right. But are there a lot of people, Richard, yes. Are there a lot of people in Wyoming? Wyoming, the state, yes. No, there are very few people in Wyoming compared to other states. There aren't many people in Wyoming. How many people are there in Wyoming? In Wyoming, there are about 600,000 people in Wyoming, or less, 550,000, similar to the city of Zaragoza. But Wyoming's very big. Yes, Wyoming is like half of Spain, but there are only 500,000, a little more than 500,000 people. So there are very few people in Wyoming comparatively. In relative terms, speaking relatively, there are very few people in Wyoming. Are there a lot of trees in Alaska? Well, yes, in some parts of Alaska, there are a lot of trees. In other parts, there are very few trees. Are there a lot of lakes in Oklahoma? No. Well, yes and no. Well, no. Natural lakes, no. There are very few natural lakes in Oklahoma, but there are a lot of reservoirs. A lot of what? Reservoirs. What does that mean? What does what? What does reservoir? It's a French word, reservoir. What does reservoir mean? How do you say reservoir in Spanish? You say embalse, pantano. Yes, it's an artificial lake. You have a river, you You have, tenemos o tienes un río, you have a river, and you have a dam. Dam. How do you say dam? Well, dam has two meanings. It means maldición, D-A-M-N, muda, but dam es una presa, D-A-M, dam. So you have a river and you have a dam. Excuse me, how do you say dam in Spanish? In Spanish, how do you say dam? Yes, how do you say dam? ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? How do you say ¿cómo se dice? In English, how do you say? Huh. How do you say dam? O sea, en inglés decimos ¿cómo dices? Es el you impersonal. The impersonal you. Nunca se sabe. You never know. O sea, en inglés decimos nunca sabes, pero no tú en particular. Nunca se sabe. You never know. How do you say dam in Spanish? Presa, presa, muro de contención. You have a river and you have a dam and you have a reservoir. So there are very few natural lakes in Oklahoma, but there are a lot of dams and there are a lot of reservoirs in Oklahoma. All right. Are there many intelligent people in Oklahoma? Yes, there are a lot of intelligent people in Oklahoma. Are there any crazy people in Oklahoma? No, very few. There are very few people, crazy people. More in Spain. Why? Well, in Spain there are 47 million people. In Oklahoma there are 4 million people. So logically, demographically, there are fewer crazy people in Oklahoma than in Spain. But per capita, I don't know. Maybe more, maybe less, who knows. Are there a lot of pencils on the table? Well, there aren't any pencils on the table. Are there any pencils in the cup? Yes, there are a lot of pencils in the cup. Yes, there are a lot of pencils in the cup. But there are only a few pencils on the table. But there are a lot of pencils in the cup. Are there a lot of people in this room? Well, yes, there are. No, there are only a few. There are very few people in this room. Mira, solo hay muy poca gente en esta habitación. There are very few people in this room. There are. People es plural, recuerda. There are very few people in this room. No, there are a lot of people. Very few. A lot. Very few. A lot. Well, Richard, there are only 2 people in this room. You and Marta. And you? Are you in this room or not? Well, indirectly, maybe, but no, I'm not. Yeah, but Ana Barguini's in this room. Luigi, her father. Lee Tong. Aki Morita. Ana Paula Eisenbach. There are a lot of people in this room. Os hacen de menos, eh? Yeah. They don't believe you're here. There are a lot of people in this room. A lot of very interesting people. Now, there are very few people in the room next door. There are 2 teachers and 3 students. It's a training session. So there are very few people in the next room. But there are a lot of people in this room. So, tengo poco tiempo. I have very little time. Solemos insertar very, o sea, muy poco tiempo. Si dices I have little time, es correctísimo, pero no solemos decirlo. I have little time today. Tengo poco tiempo. Tengo un poco de tiempo es otra cosa. ¿Eh? I have a little time. Totally different. I have a little time significa que seguramente te concedo unos minutos sin problema. I have a little time. Yeah, no problem. What do you need? What do you need? I have little time. I have little time con insertar el cambia todo. Igual que en español, tengo poco tiempo, tengo un poco de tiempo. It's a very big difference. Tengo poco dinero, tengo un poco de dinero. Tengo pocas oportunidades, tengo unas cuantas. I have a few opportunities. I have few opportunities, or very few. Repito, solemos insertar very antes de little y few, cuando es muy poco o muy pocos. I have very few opportunities. In Spain, there are very few opportunities for good jobs. True? Maybe. There are very few opportunities. There are very few possibilities. There are very few. Solemos, repito, insertar very delante de few. Lo contrario? Bueno, lo contrario es there are a lot of opportunities. Ahora, equivalente a there are very few opportunities, there aren't many. No hay muchas oportunidades. Ante la duda, dilo en el negativo, there aren't many. No hay mucha agua en España, menos en el norte. There isn't much water in Spain. Well, yes and no. There is a lot of water underground. Aquíferos, aquifers. There's a lot of water underground, but there isn't much water on the surface. There's very little water on the surface in Spain compared to many other countries. There's very little water in Algeria. There's very little oil in Spain. But there's a lot of olive oil in Spain. Oil is petroleum. There's a lot of oil in Saudi Arabia, but there's very little oil in Spain. There's a lot of olive oil in Jaén, but there's very little olive oil in Burgos. There are a lot of olive trees in Jaén, but there are very few olive trees in Asturias. Probably there aren't any olive trees in Asturias. There are a lot of palm trees in Malaga, but there are very few palm trees in Burgos. Palmeras habrá en Burgos a uno, me imagino. There are very few, if any. Se añade, if any. Hay muy pocos, si nada, se dice en inglés. There are very few. Palm trees son palmeras. Palm trees. O sea, el árbol es de palma. ¿De dónde crece la palma? Yes, Guantanamera. So there are very few palm trees in Burgos, if any. There are a lot of palm trees in Malaga. There are a lot of palm trees in Miami, but there are very few palm trees in Chicago, if any. Habrá uno. Well, I don't know. I think it's impossible. The winters in Chicago are too strong for palm trees. Very, very cold. So there are very few good English teachers in Spain. There are a lot of good English teachers collaborating with me, but there are very few, in general, good English teachers in the world. There are very few good, really good primary school teachers in the world. There are very few really good teachers. ¡Wow! ¡Qué pedazo de profesor! Me encanta la clase. Me encanta ahora esta asignatura. Ahora me encanta la álgebra. Antes la odiaba. Pero con este profe que mola, ¿de qué planeta será? There are very few teachers like that. Hay muy pocos profesores así. Fíjate cómo lo digo. There are very few teachers like that. There are a lot of teachers del montón, right? A lot of average teachers. But there are very few teachers that surprise you. Wow! Now I love Lope de Vega. ¿Cómo mola Lope? Me encanta Lope de Vega. ¿Por qué? Porque me encanta el profesor de literatura este año, o lengua. I love the teacher. Ergo, I love Lope de Vega, or Calderón de la Barca, or José Zorrilla. I love, yes, literature. Why? Because the literature teachers. There are very few teachers like that. Very few. There are very few. There are very few, I don't know, painters, artists. There are very few excellent artists like Leonardo da Vinci, like Michelangelo, like Rembrandt, like Velázquez, Goya, Zurbarán. There are very few artists of that quality. Football players like Leo Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Johan Cruyff, Platini. There are very few football players at that level. There are very few football players at that level. So, anything, great leaders, grandes líderes, like Winston Churchill. There are very few great leaders like that, at that level. There are very few great leaders in las cancillerías del mundo. There are very few great leaders in the world today. There are very few great teachers. There are very few great leaders in the private sector and in the public sector. Very few, very few. I have very little time today. Poco tiempo tengo, Tengo muy poco tiempo hoy. No te puedo ayudar. I can't help you. I have very little time today. I have very little time. Yes. Hay muy poco agua en Argelia. There's very little water in Algeria. Estamos en la página 150. We're in page very few. Very few, very little. You understand? So, I have a lot of money. I don't have much money. I have very little money. All right. I have a lot of money. I don't have much money. Or I don't have a lot of money. Repito, a lot of vale para todo. I have very little money. I have a lot of problems. Ya estamos con plural o contable. I have a lot of problems. I don't have many problems, o bien a lot of problems. I have very few problems. I have very little money. I have very few problems. I have very little money. I have very few problems. There's very little water. In Algeria, there are very few camels in Spain. Camellos. Hay muy pocos camellos aquí. There are very few flamenco dancers in Algeria. There are a lot of flamenco dancers in Spain, but there are very few flamenco dancers in Algeria. Now, there are a lot of belly dancers, bailadores del vientre. there are a lot of belly dancers, perhaps, in Algeria, but there are very few belly. Belly is panzo, tripo, barriga, belly. Beer belly is barriga cervecera, beer belly. Beer gut, beer belly. Bebo poco cerveza. I drink very little beer, but I drink a lot of wine. It's the same. All right. I drink very little beer. I like beer, but I drink very little. I like Coke and Pepsi, but I drink very little. I drink very few soft drinks. I drink very little Coke and I drink very little Pepsi, but I like it. Now, there are very few flamenco dancers in Algeria, but there are very few belly dancers in Spain. Okay, very few. There's very little water in Algeria, and there are very few trees in Algeria. Why? Well, there are very few trees because there's very little water. Oh, but there's a lot of sand in Algeria. Arena, no? Yes, there's a lot of sand, but there's very little sand in Greenland. Where? In Greenland, in Groenlandia, in Greenland. Groenlandia. Debería ser Verdelandia. Greenland. All right. So, very little, very few. Okay? Do you understand? I have a lot of problems. I don't have many problems. I have very few problems. I have very few problems. I don't have many problems. Es lo mismo. I have very little money. I don't have much money. It's the same. I have very little money. Y repito, solemos insertar very delante de few y little cuando es muy poco o muy pocos. Y no lo confundes con a little y a few. Tengo unos cuantos problemas, ¿eh? Puh, más de lo que piensas. I have a few problems. Yes. Yes. I'm a little tired today. Estoy un poco cansado. I'm a little tired now. Yeah. I'm tired of teaching English. I'm tired of sitting in front of these lights. I'm tired of looking at a cold camera, a black lens of a camera, lente, the lens of a camera. I'm tired of teaching English. 46 years teaching English, and I'm tired. I'm tired of teaching. Tired, descansado. Ahora, pronunciación, como un taller mecánico. Creo que lo dije el otro día o hace unas clases. Taller mecánico, acentúa la primera sílaba. Stress the first one, taller. Y añade una D, tired. Ya te acercas bastante. Porque cuesta al hispanohablante pronunciar tired. Tired. Es sílaba y media más que dos sílabas. Pero vamos, yo lo exagero como dos sílabas. Tired. All right, so for the next class, we're going to formally enter comparatives. I have more pencils than you do. I have more pencils than you. El do se añade, pero no hace falta. Tengo más lápices que tú. I have more pencils than you. I have more pencils than you do. You have fewer pencils than I do. You don't have as many pencils as I do. Varias formas de decir más o menos lo mismo. Que tengo más, tú tienes menos que. No tienes tanto como. Claro, en español también. Yes. No tienes tantos lápices como yo. Por ende, tengo más lápices que tú. Por ende, tienes menos lápices que yo. 3 ways. I have more pencils than you do. You have fewer pencils than I do. You don't have as many pencils as I do. There's more oil in Saudi Arabia, Arabia Saudi, petróleo. There's more oil in Saudi Arabia than in Spain. There's less oil in Spain than in Saudi Arabia. There isn't as much oil in Spain as in Saudi Arabia. Pero eso lo iremos viendo en la próxima clase. We'll see it in the next class.